Every so often, at the request of my viewers and subscribers, I shoot a video that's more personally oriented. It's less about myself as a philosopher in the digital classroom and more about my own background, my experiences, my speculations about things, and my interests. In this case, I'm doing an unboxing video. I've got this big old box here that I'm going to open up and talk about, what's in it, why that's important to me. I thought that, I would give this sort of thing a try. I've never done an unboxing video before, but I've got a really good occasion for it, which is that this contains something that is going to replace this. And if you're wondering what this is, I'll tell you in just a moment. This arrived last week, and I haven't had the chance to open it up because we've been busy packing for the move. So now I'm going to finally pop off these staples that they've got. These look like copper staples, and show you what we've got in this giant box, which we'll probably end up using for other moving stuff. You notice that I'm not really a professional when it comes to this sort of stuff. I tend to use screwdrivers, like a lot of people I think in my generation, as all-purpose tools when we really shouldn't. We should do other things instead. Oh wow, look at that, there's a sample there. Alright, so now I got the top open, get some of this nonsense out of the way, get this thing down here, and let's see what we have. Whoop. That's why it was stuck in there. So, this is from the Longneck Banjo Company, and this is my new case. Nice. Look at that. Pretty sharp looking, huh? This is solid too. I'm the kind of person who's pretty hard on all the bits and pieces of technology and clothing, everything else in my life. So the stuff that I have has to be able to take a beating and do well with it. So that's good. It's got the 5 latches. No, 6 latches. And look at that. Nice velour plush. This is going to keep my banjo very safe as we move and as I take it from place to place. Probably this will outlive me, I'm guessing. Why is it such a big deal for me, you might ask, to be getting a new banjo case? You can see, again, the very nice new hard case that I've got here, which is replacing this rather tattered case that got handed down to me from its previous owner, who I'll tell you about in just a moment. Well, it's because that case is going to be protecting this, which is my Vega Longneck Banjo. You can actually, you can see a little bit inside. It's got the model, the folklore. You notice that this banjo has a somewhat smaller drum than you might expect, but it's also got a longer neck. It's as long as a bass guitar, which is another one of the stringed instruments that I play. I've had an on and off again relationship with this particular banjo and with banjos in general, as well as with bass guitars, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But this is actually quite a valuable piece, and we didn't really realize that until we went online. We were getting ready for the move, and we wanted to look at replacement values of things that might get damaged. Turns out this is actually worth quite a bit. This was a popular model of banjo at the time that the folk music was really catching on. So this is made, if I remember right, in 1963. My father bought this when he was a college student, and he bought it in this original faux alligator case in which it came. This is sort of a trademark of it. I'm a little bit sad to have to leave this behind, but as you can see, it's really, you know, it's not lasted quite so well as the other case. I'll keep these strings. It was never built to really go through the kind of traveling and beatings that I've given it. I'm surprised it stood up quite this well so far, but you can see there's quite a bit of damage. I had duct tape. I suppose I should have done something else, but duct tape was what I had at the time, just to keep the thing from falling apart at the seams. And so it served its purpose. You know, 1963. It's 2015 now, so that case is older than me. It's over 50 years old, and I think it's time to move on to something a little bit nicer. So let's see, first of all, if this is actually going to work for the purpose that we've got it intended for. And look at that. That's a snug fit. We will see if it can actually get inside there. A little bit of protesting on the banjo's part. So not quite the fit that we're looking for. I wonder why that is. Let's see if we can't get this to slide in. All right, there we go. I think with this sort of thing, this traveling case, you really do want a snug fit, and that is what this is supplying. There we go. These are brackets, a little bit of string hanging out, and wow, this thing over here is sort of like a car. You know, maybe even like a, you know, not particularly well put together car. This is a tank. Nothing is going to happen to the banjo while this is in it. And this will be good for flying, for cross-country trips, for all that sort of stuff. And it looks quite nice. So I guess it's time to move upstairs a little bit, aesthetically speaking, with it. So, I would like to say a few other things about this. I'm really happy with this product that my wife was kind enough to order for me. But I would like to tell you a little bit about the history of this particular case and banjo and why it matters to me enough for us to get a case like that. I'm not a collector. This really has much more to do with what we would call sentimental value or family. So you can see on this that my dad bought this while he was a college student in Madison. Where is the marking? There it is. Tony Sadler, 718 Celery Hall, Madison, Wisconsin. Folk music was quite big, and he was really into folk music. He also put a little one here on the side. That was, you know, what you did back then. You used these label makers. I remember seeing this when I was a kid. My dad would bring this banjo out every so often. You know, I was born in 1970, so he bought that 7 years before I was born. And then as I was a kid, you know, he was quite busy. He worked a lot. He was a tax attorney, so he actually had a CPA and a law degree. Very smart guy, very hard worker. Died, unfortunately, when I was only 11. I've shot another video about that if you're really interested in that history. And he would get this banjo out from time to time, and he would play songs. The very first song that I learned was one that I heard him play quite often, which is called the MTA. We knew it as The Man Who Never Returned. It's about a guy in Boston. I'm not going to play this for you at this point, although perhaps someday down the line I'll make some videos with me playing. But he would bring this out in the family room. You know, back then we lived out in the countryside and we had a fireplace, and he would start playing. Oh, that's out of tune. I'm gonna have to watch that. Anyway, he would bring this along, and we would sit around and have hot cocoa, and it would be nighttime, and he would play us a few songs. I don't think he got particularly good at playing the banjo. I suspect that he got it in part more as something to have around, and because it was part of the culture at the time, and less because he was really into it. He really did love the music, though. He was quite a bit, of a bluegrass aficionado. He'd go down to listen to it when he did business trips sometimes in the South, and he really liked folk music. So, he had all these old Kingston Trio songbooks and How to Teach Yourself Banjo books. Like I said, he died when I was only 11, and I didn't rediscover. I didn't get the banjo out until I was probably about 15, 16, 17. And then I was getting disenchanted with the instrument that I was playing at the time, which was the clarinet. And I was really getting into a lot of other kinds of music. So I saw this, and I saw those books, and I was like, well, I could probably learn to play this. And that's what I, in fact, did. And it was really simple stuff at first, but I enjoyed it. I liked the fact that I could play it and sing it at the same time, unlike playing the clarinet. I liked the fact that you could play chords, or do other stuff rather than just one note at a time. So, there's a lot to it. And then I never really learned how to play banjo properly. I mean, I learned some basic rolls, but I didn't sort of hunker down and learn banjo the way it's supposed to be played properly. Instead, what I did is like I've done with other instruments, like the bass guitar, I really screwed around and found the sort of stuff that I like to play and played that. And if I could, if I needed to progress a bit so that I could do something interesting, then I would do that. But I haven't put in the kind of time and work to really be a banjo player proper. Instead, what I do with this, and I've started, I let the banjo sit for a long time when I went in the Army, and then I came back from the Army playing bass guitar. So I bought a bass guitar, played that all the way through undergraduate, played in a couple bands, went to graduate school, didn't have time in grad school to play bass guitar, although I did have it, I think, in my mother's basement, and I also had the banjo around as well in her basement. And then when she died in 2000, when I was 29 years old, I decided I'd start playing around with the banjo again, and I picked it up and really enjoyed it. I didn't play bass after that. The guitar just sat there. There's a whole other story about that. But I started playing this, and at first I would learn songs that my dad had played for us, folk songs. And then I started, thinking, well, I wonder if I could play rock songs with this sort of thing, the kind of stuff I would be more interested in playing. Like, some of the early stuff was John Cougar Mellencamp songs. As a matter of fact, Paper and Fire, I had to figure out the chord progression to that. And, I don't actually know any music theory per se, but you learn some stuff along the way that you have to kind of figure out on your own. And so, there's some cool chords that you can play on the banjo. I did end up learning quite a bit of Mellencamp stuff, but I also play the Scorpions and Motorhead and Judas Priest and Duran Duran and PJ Harvey, and just all sorts of very eclectic stuff. I even do some Metallica on here. I won't try to do that right now because I haven't practiced it for a long time, but I can play For Whom the Bell Tolls on the banjo. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of this. So, it's one of the few things that I have still left from my mother and my father. And it's something by which I can sort of reconnect with my dad, who I didn't get to spend that much time with. I've done a lot more with this banjo than he has, nothing, professional or even amateurish. I've played a few, things here and there with a few people, but I don't usually bring it out too much. But it is something that I very much enjoy and love. I need to put some new strings on this because these strings are pretty old, and I'm such a miser when it comes to it. It's kind of a silly thing because the strings are cheap, but I don't put new strings on until strings start to break. So it's probably time to put on some new strings to get a brighter sound. But in any case, that is why I am so excited about this. This thing is heavy. About this Deering banjo case, and that I'm going to put this heirloom, essentially, this little piece of musical history from the time when folk music was actually quite popular, back away and seal it up, and probably get it out tonight and play it a bit, but for the time being, this thing will be safer than it has ever been in its history. And so that's the story of me and my father's banjo and this new beautiful case that my wife was provident and prudent enough to order for me, knowing how klutzy I can be and how easily I can damage things. You notice I bumped the camera just in doing this, but there it is, the Deering Longneck Banjo case.